Cinnamon, we all know it's delicious and smells wonderful. But can cinnamon affect your mood by actually altering the levels of brain chemicals? Hi, I'm Dr. Patricia Shelton, lead medical communicator for TeHero. Let's take a look at this article here on TeHero's website about the link between cinnamon and a neurotransmitter called dopamine. So neurotransmitters are chemicals that neurons, brain cells, use to communicate with each other. And dopamine in particular has a few different functions within the brain. One of them is a huge impact on mood. So dopamine is responsible primarily for the sense of pleasure or reward. When you get something that you really want and it feels really good, that's dopamine signaling. It's also very important for movement. So levels of dopamine signaling are altered in Parkinson's disease, for example. And it's important for cognition. So memory, attention, thinking through problems, things like that. So dopamine's got a lot of these different functions. And what about cinnamon? Well, we know there's a lot of good stuff in cinnamon. So it's antioxidant, it's anti-inflammatory, has lots of good levels of minerals, fiber. We also know that cinnamon helps to control blood sugar. So it's helpful for keeping blood sugar levels from rising too high. A lot of people with diabetes are really interested in that. What about in the brain? So we always start with animal studies, and studies in mice and rats have found that giving cinnamon supplements consistently leads to increases in dopamine function. So both enhances the release of dopamine itself and also increases the numbers of dopamine receptors. So in order to act, dopamine's released from one neuron and then it needs to bind to a receptor on another neuron to have that action. So more dopamine receptors means more dopamine action. And in the mice and rats, this did improve cognitive function and improved their motor functions, their movements. However, we always want to make sure when we find something in animals that it actually works the same way in people. In humans, so they can look at dopamine levels in the brain of a human, use a little kind of special tag on the dopamine molecule to let you follow the levels. And it has been found that when people consistently take cinnamon supplements daily for a period of time, several weeks to months, there is an increase in the levels of dopamine in the brain. And then, of course, what we really want to know is, does that matter, right, in terms of all of the functions of dopamine? We would expect that it would, right? That if we see more dopamine, we'll see changes in the things that dopamine does. But we always have to check and make sure. So like we said, levels of dopamine are altered in Parkinson's disease. And it has been found that when people with Parkinson's take cinnamon supplementation consistently daily for several weeks to months, there is an improvement in their symptoms. Now, this research is still kind of early. It's too soon to say definitively cinnamon is good for Parkinson's, right? But what we know so far is certainly very promising, encouraging, and exciting. And similarly for cognitive function. So it's been found in several different studies that cinnamon improves cognitive function. So memory and attention and problem solving. It's possible, it's believed that dopamine changes are part of that. So we know dopamine is involved in cognition. Almost every neurotransmitter is. So that could be part of what's going on. Also, the ability of cinnamon to help control blood sugar. So keep blood sugar from rising too high and damaging the brain. That could be part of how it improves brain function. There could be other mechanisms too, probably. There are many different ones, all acting at the same time. But increased dopamine is likely to be part of that. So a lot of people are going to get excited now. I'd like to maybe consider using this. Is there any risks that I need to know about? So unless you're allergic to cinnamon, of course, if you are, don't take it. The main one is to watch out for the blood sugar impacts if you have diabetes and you're using pharmaceuticals of one type or another to manage that. If you add cinnamon on top of that, sometimes blood sugar could go too low. It's something to watch out for. Other than that, as long as you stay within kind of normal limits, right? Don't take the whole bottle. You're going to be fine. It's a pretty safe supplement to try. Always do talk to your healthcare provider first, of course, just in case there's something it could interact with. But it's considered to be very safe. And as we said, it needs to be taken for several weeks to months in order to really see whether it has a benefit. So if it's something that you do decide to try, just know that you're going to have to be consistent with it for a period of time in order to see whether it worked for you or not. right? We can't see that right away. You can sprinkle it on your food. You can make tea with it. You can add it to your coffee. Or if you want to really make sure you're getting the right amount every single day, a supplement is one way to do that. You can take cinnamon supplements all by themselves or added to other things like omega-5 fatty acids, which are also known to be very protective for the brain. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email us, knowledge@tahiro.com. And as always, we're wishing you great brain health.